Hello and welcome to another episode of 2 Minutes with Tim here on Heaven Worth Thinking. Today we're going to look at John chapter 14 verses 23 through 24, so I'll read it and we'll get right into this week's challenge. Jesus replied, "Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them and we will come to them and make our home with them. Anyone who does not love me will not obey my teaching. These words you hear are not my own. They belong to the Father who sent me." In these verses, we get a clear distinction, a clear contrast between those who love Jesus and those who do not. We see it in their fruit, in their obedience or lack of obedience, and hopefully we can see that in the world around us today. Hopefully in our own lives, we see that we are being obedient to Christ, that we're following his teaching, and then we're going to be loved by the Father, and that Jesus and the Father are going to come, they're going to make their home with us. Hopefully that's where we can identify ourselves within that first verse, in verse 23. Hopefully we're not in verse 24 where it says, "Anyone who does not love me will not obey my teaching." As we examine our own lives, and I'd encourage you to do that this week, reflect in your own life. Are you obeying the teachings of Jesus? Are you following after him by keeping his commands, or are you following the ways of this world and not obeying his teaching? Ultimately, this is what we have to ask ourselves on a daily basis. Am I following Jesus, or am I just merely saying I'm following Jesus? Because that's what these verses are clearly drawing a contrast between. People who just say they're going to follow Jesus and people who actually do follow Jesus. Our love for Jesus is displayed, as we've been talking about for a couple of weeks here on 2 Minutes with Tim. Our love for Jesus is displayed in how we follow him and obey his commands. We can't just half-heartedly do it. We have to go all in and follow all of his commands. It doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes ever, or we're not going to mess up from time to time, but we need to be trying to and striving each day to follow his commands to the best of our ability and to grow closer to him and follow him better and better each day. That's my encouragement for you this week. I hope that you will examine your life, see, am I obeying Jesus' teaching? Am I not obeying his teaching? And then if you're not finding yourself in verse 23 and you find yourself in verse 24 where you're not obeying his teaching, my encouragement and challenge for you this week is to truly apply Scripture to your life by following God's commands and turning away from all the distractions and all the temptations that this world offers us and gets in the way of our relationship with Jesus Christ. That's my encouragement for you this week, and I hope you'll join us next time for another episode of 2 Minutes with Tim here on Heaven We're Thinking.